Right, my name's Martin Baker, and what we're going to be looking at today is it's a performance support tool that you can use if you're implementing 70-20-10. Can I just have a show of hands? Is anybody actively implementing 70-20-10? So a handful of people. Okay. What I'll do is I'll run through and we'll have a quick overview as to what 70-20-10 is. We'll look at performance support and then the toolkit for managers and then a couple of examples of how it can be used. First of all, can I just check, can everybody hear me okay? It's very, very loud in here, isn't it? We're the corporate eLearning Consortium, and we have a sister company called the Charity eLearning Consortium. And the corporate side of the business supports and funds a lot of the work that we do on the charity side. And we're just launching an initiative called Give Back UK. So it's a bit of a gratuitous plug, really, in terms of charities and people that work for charities don't have the money to come to conferences like here, the, £800-900. And so we're just launching something called Give Back UK, where we can then share knowledge with the charity sector. And we're doing a video project called the Expert Series, branded Clear Lessons. And at the end, if anybody can give us some time so we can film them, I'd certainly like to talk to people about that. And we've got an example of one of the videos that I'm going to be using today. Okay. Again, a show of hands. Does anybody here have children? So think about when you had children, what sort of training courses you went on. So I look back, I've got an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old, and in fact, 11 years ago, we didn't really have the internet in the way that we did now, but it's a case of, you'd read books, you'd ask friends, you'd ask your parents, but very, very typical learning journey that we've been through. And this is how we learn on a day-to-day basis. We get in there, we get stuck in, we try it, we make mistakes, we learn from those mistakes. Okay. Something about 70-20-10 that first of all, it's a tongue twister, I can't actually say it very much. And what happens is people tend to categorize, very, very specific lines between those different areas. And I was talking to Charles Jennings. Again, does anybody here know Charles Jennings? So Charles Jennings is, from his background, he's been in L&D for over 30 years, and he's become an expert, if you like, within the area of 70-20-10. And I thought the best way to explain to you, what is 70-20-10 for those that don't know it already, is to, I'm going to play a quick 1-minute video from Charles Jennings, and this is something that he's done for us that we've now put back into the charity sector. Okay. We've got volume. Could we have some volume on the... Could we have some volume on the...
Well, 70-20-10 is an interesting beast. It's, I always describe it as a way in which we can extend learning and improve performance. And I always tell people that you don't think about the numbers. The numbers are there, but if you focus on the numbers, you don't really understand it, because really it's a scaffolding, a framework for change. And that, what it says essentially is that as working adults, we learn in a number of ways. We learn through structured development, we learn through interaction with other people, maybe informal coaches, informal mentors, maybe formal structures. We learn through having a good network. There's a lot of research that shows that those people who've got good, solid networks within and outside the organisation tend to be higher performers. And lastly, we learn mostly through experience and practice. And I often say that when we look at the way adults learn and work, it comes down to 4 things. We learn through rich...
Okay, I'm going to stop it there and move on. Okay, brilliant. So what do you need to think about when implementing 70-20-10? And essentially, the way we look at it is it's looking at those managers and the staff and your workforce, and how can we help them to to be more effective within their roles and within their job. And it's this drive to make us as people within our organisations more effective. And so we need to be able to provide those individuals within your organisation with the L&D experiences of what they need. A lot of the time it's a case of let's not use the words L&D. It's more about performance. It's about how can we make me better at my job. A lot of time when you move out of the L&D space and you start talking to people within the organisation and you ask them whether they know what L&D is, and it's amazing that a lot of people don't, and it'll be, oh yeah, that's part of HR. And we get, I think we're guilty within the L&D space of just assuming too much and assuming that the people out there and our staff actually want to learn more. So it's, how can we be clever and how can we be creative in terms of giving them the help and the support that they need to make them better and more effective at their jobs? Again, because we all work in the L&D space, it's obvious that the sort of resources that we can provide them with: e-learning, classroom, performance support, communities, YouTube. And there's a whole mix there of quite traditional L&D methods through to using some of the new modern technologies. Does anybody here know when the term e-learning was first introduced as an official term? Some guesses. 1980? Anybody else? 82? So I was having the conversation with Laura Overton this morning, and the first time the term e-learning was officially used was, she told me, 1999. I didn't agree with her. Okay, performance support, and this is, if you want to look at the 70-20-10, this is now, we're looking at that 70, that I'm doing my job, I need some support, I need something now to help me perform better in my role. This is a book that's come out very recently. You could well have, you've probably heard of Bob Mosher. Make a note of that. If you are looking at using performance support within the business, then absolutely fantastic book to have a browse through. And again, this was a report that came out of the BIS a couple of years ago. It's quite interesting. Managers with best practice performance support tools at their fingertips can deliver a 23 increase in organisational performance. So just think about that for a second. Again, it's thinking about how can you make individuals more effective within their role. And there's a direct then report between making an individual more effective to making the organisation more effective. Okay, now we have a tool called Toolkit for Managers, and this is it's about 3, 4, 5 years old. It's constantly evolving. We've got an audience now of about 1 million managers across the UK who are using this. It's customizable. You can use it anytime, any place, anywhere. 2,000 pieces of content that's constantly growing. That's just a quick screenshot, probably too small, you can't really see it. The beauty of this is it will work on your desktop, it'll work on an iPad, it'll work on a phone, it'll work on anything, so it's completely responsive. And if you see across the top line, what we've done is we've divided the 50 different subject areas into 4 different areas. I don't know whether you can read that. Can you read that? Not really. So the 50 different topics are then divided down into, the first one is leadership and strategy, managing people and teams, personal skills and development, services, projects, and operations. What we did is we got 200 managers from a conference like this. So 200, not necessarily L&D managers, but just general managers from an organization. Said, okay, we've got these 50 different topic areas. Where is the most obvious place to put it? And so it's actually been designed by the managers themselves. So as an individual, so, okay, where am I going to go to find a certain piece of content? So it's very intuitive, and you can see how you then get the drop-down menu. You can dive straight into the particular piece of content that you're looking for. And again, we've got full search capability. You can search by keyword, or you've got guided search. So then that'll take you down the different levels. Sorry. Okay, so how is the content created? Are you familiar with organizations like, Harvard Business School, Ashridge, INSEAD, all the major business schools around the world? And they all specialize in certain areas. So for example, if you want to be a leader, you will do your MBA at Harvard. If you're a marketeer, then you're likely to do your MBA at Stanford, somewhere like that. And they all specialize. What we do is we have a team of editors that work with the various different business schools. They also work with the publishers, authors involved in conferences like this. And it's a case of pulling in all the best content from around the globe, basically. So the content is updated on a constant basis, and what happens is, there's new content that's brought in, old content is updated, and it's delivered in various different ways. So there's audio content, there's video content, there's how-to guides. So I need to know how to do something, and then it will run me through the steps of doing that. There are tools and templates. So again, think of yourself sitting at your desk. You've got a situation that's just come up. You're not really sure how to deal with it. So you'll dive into the topic, find the section that's relevant, and it could be a simple template that you download as a Word template, and then actually use it at your desk. The audio is quite good. You can download that straight to your phone, straight to an iPod, listen to it in the car. Got self-assessments. Self-assessments and exercises, and these are quite good, that if you're actually running training courses, then you can then actually start integrating these into programs that you're running. So when somebody turns up to your traditional classroom course, then they could bring some pre-work that they've already done through the assessments. Okay, I'll skip past. Let's look at a quick example here of a user journey. So again, within that world of the 70-2010, sitting at my desk, and we'll look at an example here with Katie. So she's got a new project. She's not got much experience. A new manager within the organisation, and she's got access to Toolkit for managers. First thing that she'll do is download an infographic giving her some general information. The project scope template, so downloads that within Word, and then can actually use that as a live document for the project that she's working on. If you start thinking about tools that you have within your organization already, you might have project templates, you might have guidelines around recruitment, and what you can do is you can actually embed those tools and those tools that you've got within your organization into the product itself. So suddenly it's not just, you're not just going to an off-the-shelf toolkit with lots and lots of great information that might not be relevant. You can suddenly start personalizing it to your organization. And that's where we find it's got, when we start looking at user engagement, and if somebody goes into the toolkit and they find something that's relevant and they think it's been created by your organization, specifically for your organization, then they'll start going back to that. They'll look at it as a repository for content within the toolkit. There's a how-to guide. Then she moves on to the implementation, key ideas. Again, this is very popular in terms of, how many people here, use lists, to-do lists. Also, as an organisation, we're quite think of Sunday night, 10 o'clock, and it's the 50 most romantic movies or something like that. And we can see that we're sitting there, and it's 11:30, it's 11:45, and we're determined that we're going to see it out to the end. And we're fascinated by lists of the top 10 things that you have to remember. And these are what the key ideas can be. And so again, looking across the breadth of all the different topics and those things that you must remember to do. But again, if you start thinking about how you can customize that and start putting things that are specific to your organization within those lists of things that people have to remember. And it could be something around recruitment or a performance review that you want to make sure that your whole team and everybody within the organization is going to cover. Evaluation, there's a case study, so read through the case study. Exercise and lessons learned, evaluation template. And again, with all of the different topics, if you start thinking of, once you've got to the end of what it is you're trying to do and trying to achieve, to go through the evaluation, then you can share that with your manager as well. Or if you're asking your team to use it, then you get them to share that with you. Another quick example here, Sean, recently promoted, not office-based, has a presentation to make, hasn't been on a presentation course for a while. It's very, very typical that the next presentation course that the organisation is running is in 3 months' time. He needs to do a presentation next week, so he needs some help here and now. He's based at home, so using the internet, he can log on to Toolkit for Managers. Immediately, there's a template here, a download in Word, preparing to present. So you can actually create the presentation using Word, and then going through preparing the presentation, putting it together, and then there's a section later on actually how to deliver that presentation as well. Again, there's a video here of Steve Jobs. I don't know whether anybody's ever seen that. If you haven't, absolutely fantastic video. And looking at how somebody giving a presentation uses his experience over the last 30 years to really draw you in. There's an audio there on listening skills. And then it's the day of the presentation, so Sean's on the train, going down to London to do his presentation. Pulls out his iPhone and actually could go through some simple steps that are outlined. Again, there's different ways of displaying the information on the phone. Think about how a phone and what a phone is really good at. A phone is great for audio. So encourage people to download the various different audios straight onto their phone so they can listen to them, for example, when they're on the train. And this is interesting. Again, you can't see the actual information there, but what it is, it's looking at those million users who are using the toolkit, and we've looked at when it's used in what type of day, so at what time of day, and there's spikes in the morning that you imagine people going to work, but the really interesting one there is the spike about 8-9 o'clock at night. And can you imagine yourself, you're sitting there, you're preparing for the following day, and it's like, oh, I've got a presentation to do tomorrow, I'm a little bit rusty, and so, pull out your iPhone or your iPod, sit at your computer, and then download some of that information there and then. So we've been focusing on the 70%, it's the performance support, how to help me as a busy manager. The way that it's licensed is it's licensed on number of managers that you have within your organization. And we can talk to you about pricing. We're on the stand just over here, number 21. If anybody would like to talk to us about the toolkit itself or some of the video work we're doing, I'd love to talk to you as L&D folk about, can we film you about your subject areas that you're passionate about that we can then push down into the charity sector. And if you would like to have a free trial, again, go and see my colleagues on stand 21, and they can sign you up so you can actually get in there and have a look at it yourselves. Any questions before we wrap up? I hope everybody could hear. It seems very, very, very loud in here. Thank you.